1.2 has a release date and it is coming soon, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, we are going to be playing it. Today, I'm going to be giving you a full breakdown of all of the news that came out of the trailer, as well as a detailed analysis of that trailer. Stick around if you're keen. So all day today I've been getting messages and tweets saying like, hey, Skill Up, where's your video on the 1.2 news? I apologize, this is a bit late, guys. I work full time and I'm also based in Sydney, Australia. So that means that when news gets released overnight while I sleep, I don't get to report on it for quite some time after. So today I'm actually going to go through all the news that came through, but I'm actually going to go a bit further than that. I'm actually going to give you a very detailed breakdown of the trailer, which I think a lot of other people haven't done. And during the course of the day, a whole bunch of news and clarification has come out. So given that this video is a little bit late, I'll be able to cover that stuff as well. And I'm going to try and avoid speculating because me guessing what things might be is not particularly helpful. I'm going to try and stick to the facts for you. So guys, if you like this video and you find it useful, don't forget to like and subscribe. And with that, we will kick on. All right, so let's get the basics out the way first. This is a free update, so you do not need to purchase this. It's not part of the season pass, and it comes out on the 24th, which is a Tuesday. Now, there's no maintenance scheduled for the Tuesdays, so I don't know how that works. I'm not sure if they're going to have a maintenance or not, but regardless, the date is confirmed for the 24th. We just don't exactly know when yet. So the centerpiece of this expansion is the new Incursion, which they're calling Clear Sky. And it's set in Columbus Circle, and you're going to be able to see the map here. And the overall setting is that the Rikers have taken control of a surface-to-air missile installation in that area, and it's your job to get it back. Now, even from these very few images that we've seen, there's actually a fair amount that we can tell about what's going on in Clear Skies. One of the things that really interests me about this Incursion is the overall map design. Now, I was a big critic of the map design of the first Incursion. It was very much like a boxed-in affair with a really annoying dugout pit in the middle. It was just very dull, whereas this is a very different style. It's very open. It's quite circular in nature. You can see off to the side there are these sort of sheds and these stalls that we're sort of going to be able to use for cover. The overall layout of it looks really interesting, and I think it looks like a big step up versus what we saw in that first Incursion, which, as I said, wasn't that great. The other thing I noticed during the trailer is that the Rikers that we're seeing are all the same Rikers that we've seen before. There were no new enemy types demoed, which is interesting because the last time they demoed Falcon Lost, they made a big deal of the new drone enemies which were available. So I'm going to assume that there's probably no new enemy types in this Incursion. Otherwise, I think that Massive probably would have sort of hyped them up a little bit. What's really interesting as well is that we don't yet know what the final boss is. I mean, in the Falcon Lost, we knew that we were fighting an APC, and we knew we had to take it down by some means, but we actually have no idea what we're in there to kill this time. We just know it's lots and lots of Rikers, so it's going to be very interesting to see what they throw at us in terms of a final boss. Something else really interesting that came out today after the reveal of this trailer was a developer Q&A on the topic, and one of the things that they actually discussed was the presence of checkpoints within this. Now, one of the big pain points for Falcon Lost was that there are no checkpoints, and to be perfectly honest with you, this really sucks, and I have personally given up on many Falcon Lost attempts purely out of frustration, where I have wiped on the final wave and I'm just like, there's no way I'm doing that again. So to know that there are checkpoints in this Incursion is a really good sign. And what's really interesting is that they said that there will be checkpoints after the first encounter, and that's a very different type of wording versus, say, for instance, if you just had waves of enemies coming at you like Falcon Lost. Otherwise, they might have said something like, you know, there will be a checkpoint after a certain number of waves. So perhaps we're looking at something that's a little bit more raid style, and you know, maybe there's a set encounter at the front end that we need to get through, and that gets us to the checkpoint, and then after that, obviously, the rest of the Incursion opens up. Other details that came through from that developer Q&A was that the hard mode of this encounter, of this Incursion, will drop 204 high-end items every time you do it, and it will also drop 214 set items when you do it, and you will get double rewards once a week for doing it. So that's really interesting. And on the challenge mode, of course, you can expect to be getting 204 high-end items, because the highest level items for high-end right now is 204. And you will get 240 gear set items, and again, you get double rewards for doing that too. You also get level 204 weapons for both of them, for hard and for challenge mode. So that's good to know that you're going to be sort of gearing up your your weapons very, very quickly between this and the Dark Zone, you're probably not going to be wanting for, level 204 high-end weapons. And another thing that was also recently featured on the State of the Game page on Massive's website was that the damage dealt by snipers and by shotgunners is being tuned down. They recognized that they were dealing way too much damage because of the level difference between you and a level 34 enemy, and that is being adjusted, which is a really great sign, not just for this new incursion, but for Falcon Lost as well. So hopefully that incursion becomes more doable, and I'm also crossing my fingers to see that the changed or checkpoints will also be included in Falcon Lost because they desperately need them. So that's all well and good, but why are we doing all of this? We do it for loot, of course, and luckily there is new loot on the way in terms of new gear sets and new high-end weapons, named high-end weapons that is. Now there are 4 new gear sets being introduced. There's one called Final Measure, which is a defensive focus set. There's one called Hunter's Faith, which is a new long-range set. One called Predator's Mark, which is a support set, and one called Lone Star, which is a DPS gear set. Now I'm not going to waste your time by speculating on what these sets might be, but I will say that one of the sets actually shares the same icon as the Sentry's Call set. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure if there's going to be some kind of mixing of the two sets by some means, but I just think it's very interesting that they shared the same icon, and I say watch this space. Now, one thing that the developers have already confirmed is that some of these gear sets, at least some of them, will actually have specific interactions with specific weapon types, essentially making those weaker or less used weapons more usable, better. And I mean, look, that sounds cool, but I won't lie, I'm a little bit worried about that. I don't think the solution to weak weapon types is to prop them up with gear sets, because obviously then if you're using the weapon without the gear set, the weapon is weak. And if the weapon is buffed, then it becomes too strong if it's supported by the gear set. So it's going to be a very interesting balancing act for the developers as they try and roll this out, and I'm really interested to see what they actually put in play. Now, along with the announcement of gear sets come the announcement of new named high-end weapons. Now, the developers say that there are 4 being released, but I actually think there's more than that because they list 4 on their website, but they actually show us at least one more weapon that surely is a high-end weapon, but they don't mention it anywhere else. The first is a Hungry Hog M60 LMG, which has a really nice paint job on it, a Centurion M1911 pistol, a Medved Saiga 12 shotgun, which, if it's anything like what it is in real life, is in fact an automatic shotgun. And finally, we have the Historian, the M1A marksman rifle that everyone has been super excited for. Now, the other thing that the developers didn't mention was this bad boy. This is a AA-12 assault shotgun, and it's an actually fully automatic shotgun. I wish I could show you some footage of this. I might try and do that later, of this thing firing. It's pretty crazy. It's almost like a combination of a Tommy gun and a shotgun in one weapon, but it's super cool. The developers didn't mention it at all in their list of high-end weapons. They haven't mentioned it anywhere before this, but there it is. So I think we can expect that that's at least one more high-end weapon in the mix. But in essence, they look really cool, and I'm actually really excited about it. My personal hope is that this LMG is actually usable, because currently LMGs are in a terrible position, and it would be really nice that they sort of rolled this out as a bit of a test case to get LMG damage up by some means, so they can see what they're like before they do the full weapons balance pass, which will come after patch 1.2. Now, the other thing that was announced was the inclusion of high-value targets. There will be a new vendor at the base of operations who will be dishing up daily high-value target missions. Now, the menu here is a little bit, it's quite interesting. It's a bit hard to divine exactly what all of this means, but certainly we get rewards for killing these high-value targets, and we see here that we get, at the very minimum, we get some credits, but I'm going to assume that those sort of rewards will ramp up with the difficulty associated with each of the missions, and we can probably expect to be getting, Dark Zone credits, Phoenix credits and these sorts of things. In the bottom right-hand corner, we see this target intel number. It looks like a new type of currency, and we also see that same icon appearing on the target list. So here it seems like you have 5 target intel, and you can purchase the sort of bounty almost for that high-value target, but it seems like you can't purchase, Cougar Squad, for instance. I haven't actually realized how good that name was until I said it out loud. But yeah, I mean, obviously that costs 10 and it seems like you can't afford that. So obviously you earn this currency by some means, maybe by doing other missions, you earn this currency and then you can spend more of it and you sort of work your way up the ladder to get towards the higher value and more valuable targets. So either way, it's great because these targets will be out in the world. They will not be in the dark zone. They will not be in missions. They will be in the PvE world. And that's fantastic for people who hate the dark zone and don't want to go there. There are a lot of people like that, or just for some, people who'd like to sort of just grind a little bit out in the awesome, amazing open world that exists out there, because right now we currently have no incentive to go out there whatsoever. So this is a really great change and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes. Now, the very last inclusion is something called hijacking, and this is very controversial. A lot of people hate this. I put out a call on Twitter to get thoughts on this, and the vast majority of responses that I got back were overwhelmingly negative. People don't like this idea. What is it? Well, first of all, essentially in an extraction right now, once your loot is on the rope, it's safe, no problem, right? Off it goes, mission accomplished, doesn't matter if you die, it's all good. Now, what can happen is that while your loot is on that rope, it is vulnerable. Someone can walk up to that rope, cut it, and all of your loot will then drop on the ground. So you actually need to defend your loot while it's being extracted. Now, after the reveal was made, Hamish on stream provided some further details. So the way this works is that when you start cutting the rope, you will immediately go rogue with a 19-second timer. So it's that base timer that occurs when you just start shooting someone and you've just gone rogue at the beginning. You get that. The rope takes a full 6 seconds to cut, and then after that time, you have a full 90-second rogue timer on you. So basically, this isn't like, you can just cut the rope and immediately grab the loot and run off and you've made your escape. Like, it's a definite thing where it takes you time to do it. And obviously you're exposed during that time, you are rogue during that time, and successfully cutting that rope does make you rogue for 90 seconds. Now, the response to this has been really mixed. I mean, I'd probably say 25% of what I've seen has been really positive, and some people love the tension that this is going to bring to extractions, but a lot of people really don't like it, and they feel like the Dark Zone right now is very much about super geared people griefing other people, as opposed to a really level playing field and really good competitive PvP. I kind of fall into the latter bucket. I think I really appreciate the intent of the Dark Zone. I think it's a great idea, but I think it's not executed properly. And right now, this seems like another tool to add on to, the difficulty that lower level players are experiencing. So I'm really sympathetic to what they're saying. I definitely see how they feel like this is a bit of a punch in the gut, so to speak, for them as they're trying to gear up. But at the same time, I also do appreciate that Massive are trying to make this a better and more tense and more interesting environment, and this is another tool in the arsenal. So we'll see where it lands. I think it's a great idea that's probably come a little bit too early, but we'll see what the final design is. We'll see how it really plays out to really get a view of whether or not it's good. And that's it, guys. That's all the details for 1.2. As I said, it's out next Tuesday. There's probably going to be some sort of maintenance then, so get ready for that. We've got a new incursion, we've got new gear sets, we've got new high-end weapons, we've got high-value targets out in the PvE world, we've got hijacks occurring in the Dark Zone, we've got, I'm sure, a whole heap of minor tweaks and fixes that will be announced in the patch notes that we haven't even seen yet. There's a lot coming, and I'm actually really excited about this patch. I think it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it a lot. So yeah, obviously I've got a few videos coming out this week. I'm actually going to be taking a really detailed look at those recently announced weapons, so you can expect that. I'm also going to be providing you with a new possible weapon build that's really interesting. I'm really excited to be presenting you guys that one, so make sure you stick around for that. And obviously I'll have my regular state of the game update and any update on any news that comes out between now and launch. So guys, as always, if you like this stuff, then please remember to drop a like. I appreciate it a lot. And if you're keen for that, those videos and any others, make sure you subscribe to be notified when they become available. Until then, guys, take good care of yourselves and see you in the Dark Zone. Bye bye.